Hi guys, another day of one of Boris Johnson's members of cabinet not understanding what the hell Brexit is about. Now in this case it's the highly enlightened International Trade Secretary Liz Truss, and she's going to respond to a question from a member of the SNP who's asking about why businesses in Scotland who are struggling to export at the moment were receiving basically Brexit propaganda instead of having this money be spent on preparing the ports, where the real problem is. So let's hear what they had to say.
I said to Scotland to SNP spokesperson Stuart Hulsey with the first of two questions. Stuart Hulsey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Secretary of State was copied in to a letter to the Business Secretary from Vicky Lee Pearson, the Sales Director at John Ross Jr. Aberdeen, Salmon Producers and Exporters. It described in excoriating detail the barrage of useless Brexit information which added no value or clarity to food and drink exporting businesses like that. Would it not be better to fix the problems at the UK-EU border where real exports take place rather than make vague promises about future promotional campaigns?
Now, I've talked about this before, and I uploaded a video recently where Boris Johnson was basically telling businesses, don't worry about the problems you have now. There are great opportunities in the future that we need to take advantage of. Businesses that have been saying that we're weeks away from absolute collapse. Boris Johnson's response is, yes, but think about the future. Years from now, there are great opportunities all around the world. Liz Truss is going to respond in pretty much the same way.
Well, I observed that the honourable gentleman did not support a deal. So, effectively, he wanted no deal for the people of the United Kingdom. So,
okay, so, and I said this before, this is not about a deal. This is not about no deal. This is the problem of Brexit. Businesses are trying to export at the moment. They can't, or they're suffering these consequences, the consequences of Brexit. They're trying to get their goods through the border, but there's this extra paperwork because of Brexit. Now, she's trying to twist it into, well, see, you voted against the Boris Johnson's deal. So if Boris Johnson's deal didn't go through, it would have been chaotic at the border. It is chaotic at the border. It's not the deal that helps the situation. Yes, if there was a no deal Brexit, the situation would have been worse because there would have been tariffs as well. But the tariffs are not the problem here. The problem is the bureaucracy, the extra Brexit red tape that Liz Truss wanted. Liz Truss voted for this. You can't blame the SNP here. You wanted Brexit. They did not want Brexit. They wanted the status quo. They wanted frictionless trade. They wanted goods from Scotland to travel into the EU without any restrictions. You wanted the restrictions. They're asking you, why are you sending up to Scotland this propaganda? It's more or less rubbing salt on the wounds for businesses who are struggling at the moment, saying, don't worry if you're struggling at the moment, there'll be an opportunity some way down the road.
I think it's a bit rich, him raising issues when no deal would have been very, very tricky for the exporters he's talking about.
No, once again, the problem is not the deal. The problem is Brexit. See, now look, she either doesn't understand Brexit or she's pretending not to understand Brexit. Which is it? Now, anyone who's a supporter of Brexit, please tell me, does she not understand Brexit or she's pretending not to understand Brexit? Because the issue here is Brexit. You can talk about deals, you can talk about no deals. They are irrelevant because the problem here is the UK was a member of the customs union and the single market. Now it's not. Because the UK is outside the single market and the customs union, this paperwork is required. Now, the SNP did not want to be outside the single market and the customs union. I imagine some of the businesses didn't want it either. but they have to suffer the consequences. Liz Truss wanted to be outside the single market and customs union. So she can't complain about the situation.
Now, £200 million was given to the Scottish Government to prepare to minimise disruption.
Minimise disruption. What disruption is that? I would love to be there, and I'd ask her, sorry Liz, what disruption are you talking about? The Brexit disruption. The Brexit disruption that the Scottish people didn't vote for. Now you're talking about, we're giving money to the Scottish Government. To prepare for what? The problem is at the port. Now, in some cases, there's a problem of paperwork, but that's not the main issue. The main issue is at the port. When the lorries arrive in the port, they're stuck there. You could give £100 billion to the government in Scotland, but that wouldn't fix the problem in Kent. Friggin' idiot.
I suggest he takes up that issue with Nicola Sturgeon to see how that money has been spent to help Scottish exporters.
How is this money being spent to help Scottish exports? The problem, you friggin' idiot. This is extremely frustrating because these people, Liz Truss, Boris Johnson, Jacob Rees-Mogg, all of these people are lying. They understand that Brexit is a disaster, but they won't own up and say, yes, it's a disaster. It's our mistake. We're sorry. We thought everything would be hunky-dory. We thought we could get all these things, goods through the ports without problems. We told people everything would be okay. Now we realize it's a disaster. But instead of, saying we're sorry, we just shift the blame. Shift the blame onto someone else. Boris Johnson was blaming the truck drivers for not having their documentation correct. Then he was blaming the pandemic. When it's the pandemic, he's blaming the public for not following the rules, even though his chief advisor was not following the rules. It's always about blaming someone else. If test and trace is not working, blame the opposition for not supporting it. They're charlatans, they're liars, they're crooks, they're corrupt, and they have no backbone. They're incapable of saying, yes, we're responsible for this. We're sorry. They created this mess. Stop blaming the Scottish people. Stop blaming the SNP. Stop blaming Nicola Sturgeon. Stop blaming Scottish businesses. Stop blaming English businesses, Welsh businesses, any other businesses. It's not their fault. They have even if some of them voted for Brexit, it's not their fault because they're not in control of the port. You are in control of the port. You can decide what happens. You were told you need to invest in these new IT systems. You didn't do it. You added some money at the end. You promised people, yes, everything will be okay. Everything is not okay. You said we're going to hire 50,000 customs officers. You haven't done that. You're putting a huge amount of responsibility and work on the people who are currently employed there. I don't think they're able to handle this. And kudos to them, because a lot of them have been treating the lorry drivers with a great deal of respect. They have been trying to help the lorry drivers where they can, but they're understaffed. They don't have the resources necessary to deal with this load. The Port Authority in Dover, and I've covered this in the past, he was calling out to the government, we're not prepared, we need help. And Michael Gove's response and Boris Johnson's response was, everything is okay. Everything will be fine, don't worry. Anyone who tells you there will be problems in January was engaging in Project Fear. Liz Truss was one of them. She was... How dare people suggest that there would be problems in January? Project Fear, Project Fear. Trying to undermine the government, trying to undermine Brexit, trying to undermine the greatest demonstration of democracy in UK history. I don't know what else to say. Once again, it's not the case that she doesn't understand Brexit. I hope that's not the case. If she doesn't understand Brexit, we're in very serious trouble here. But she's lying about it. This is about protecting Brexit. Brexit must be defended at all costs. Because as soon as the public realize that Brexit was a disaster, they're going to come looking for you. You're going to get blamed for it because you were promoting it at every turn. Now, to make a little bit of a prediction for the future, I do think when things get really bad, they're not that bad at the moment, they will get worse. But when they do get really bad, you'll start to see some cracks appear in the Conservative Party. And the blame will start to be loaded onto someone. And you'll start to see people like Liz Truss who will say, no, I didn't vote for it, or I didn't support it, or I was the lone voice of reason within the cabinet. I was against Brexit. Yes, I went along with it for a bit, but truly my heart was not into it. These people are charlatans and opportunists. So I'm pretty sure there will come a time when the Conservatives will abandon Brexit because it will no longer be useful to them. And at that stage, you'll start to see the blame game. And of course, Boris Johnson will take most of the responsibility, but Boris Johnson will be probably long out the door from number 10 at that stage. I'm going to keep calling these people out. I'll say that they don't understand Brexit, but I think I leave it up to you. Do you believe that Liz Truss understands Brexit, or she's pretending not to understand Brexit? As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot. I want to say a big thank you to all of my patrons. You ensure that this channel continues to exist. I'm eternally grateful for all of your support. If you join Patreon, you will receive instant access to our Discord server, where we have both audio and video chats. You can chat with me and other patrons, where we discuss important and non-important issues. Becoming a patron per month costs about the same as a large coffee, so why not check it out?